There. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's actually all one. It's all one. I'm sorry. There is this.
What daf are you on?
So about that. We are learning the Rambam, Sefer Avodah, the first halachas.
The face of the fear. You also see a Chabad.org.
This time, we started the 3 weeks, Shavasa B'Tammuz until Tisha B'Av, the 3 weeks, and the Rebbe had a very unique idea that the Rebbe brought up to light, that he brought Chazal, that when we learn about the Beis Hamikdash, it's Ki'ilu we're building the Beis Hamikdash. Maila ani aleihem Ki'ilu asu. That the Eibusher considers it if we build the Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe suggested these days we should learn about the Beis Hamikdash. Learn the Pesukim in Yecheskel about it, learn in the Rambam, learn Mishnayos Midas. You'll learn about the Beis Hamikdash. So I think it would be appropriate that we take a little break from Milchus Shabbos and we learn a little bit about Hilchos Beis HaBchira in the Rambam. The Rambam has, I think it's 10 prakim, and Hilchos Beis HaBchira, on these halachas, it's actually 8 prakim, Hilchos Beis HaBchira. And let's take a look, let's read it, and we'll discuss it. The Rambam starts off, Perek Rishon, Mitzvah say, Lasses Beis LaHashem. It's a mitzvah essay, one of the Taryag mitzvahs, to make a Beis LaHashem, these Muchan Lies Makrivim Boy Karbonis. Prepared to be Makriv Karbonis, and we 3 times a year, Chag HaShuos, Chag HaPesach, Chag HaSukkos, we come there to the Beis Hamikdash. Shenemar v'asu li mikdash. It says you shall make for mikdash. A clear pasuk in the Torah is a chiyuv to make a mikdash. Kwanisfarish b'Torah mishkan she'asa Moshe Benu. The Torah itself tells us how the Mishkan was made. A lot of pasukim in the Torah, parashiyos, all about the Mishkan. Plenty of parashiyos that discuss the Mishkan. Right?
Yeah.
V'haya lefisha. That was temporary. Shenemar ki loy basem ad ata. You have not yet come to Yerushalayim. When you come to Yerushalayim, that will be your permanent mikdash. So the Rambam lays down here very clearly what is this point of the not only it's Mas'aseh, says what's the point of it? Muchan liyes makrivim bar karbanas. So this is very important, Rabbi say. When we read the Rambam, it's not so simple. The Rambam learns that the tachlis of the Beis Hamikdash is to bring karbanis. Not everyone understands it that way. Why did Hashem want we should have a Beis Hamikdash? What's the ikar? There's a lot of things happening in the Mikdash. You're lighting the menorah, the arin, shulchan, the zbeach, the ketaydas. The Rambam says that the ikar is muchel niyas makrivim by karbanis. That's why you need a Beis. That's why the Eibusher said also in the Mikdash. Rabbi, the Rebbe Lamashal pointed out that the Ramban and others held that the ikar is the arin. The ikar was that there should be a mokim for the arin, a mokim for the Hashras Hashchina. And that was the ikar of the Beis Hamikdash. And to say it in a more edel way, according to the Ramban, the point of the Mikdash was something for Hashem. Not something we do. We make a mokim, and the Eibusher rests there. According to the Rambam, it's true the Eibusher rests there, but the ikar is our avodah in the Mikdash. That we have an avodah to bring karbanis, that's the ikar in the Mikdash. The Rambam continues on and explains us the whole history. Kivan shenichas la'aretz, and they arrived in Eretz Yisrael. Hamidu HaMishkan, they took with them the Mishkan from the Midbar, and they put it in Gilgal. Arba Esei Shana, for 14 years it was there. What were those 14 years about? Shekavshu v'shechoku. It says when they entered Yisrael, it took them 7 years to conquer Eretz Yisrael. An additional 7 years, so they divided Eretz Yisrael up. It took time to divide the land and settle everyone in every shevet in its land. So it took 14 years. After those 14 years, Misham Bo the Shilei. The Mishkan arrived at Shilei. Ubanu Sham, it was different the way it was built, because the walls were Bayish Avanim. It was already partially permanent. It was built with a house of stone. Until then, it was the Atzi Shitim, it was cedar wood. It was a crushim that were built in the Mishkan. Over here, it was a Bayish Avanim. They took the skins of the Mishkan, which they had with them, and they covered over this structure, the structure of stones. And there was no actual ceiling, it was the skins, the urias. Ushloish meyes shishim v'teishim teish ashana amad Mishkan Shilei. Mishkan Shilei stood in that spot for 369 years. Ukeshemes Eli, when Eli, the Kohen Gadol, passed away, the whole Charav was destroyed. The story the Pelishtim came, and Eli's sons were killed, and Eli heard the news, he passed away. Obal and Noiv, they came to Noiv. Obal Hamikdash, they built over there a Mikdash. Okemei Shmuel, Charav Abal the Gibeon were destroyed. They came to Gibeon, Obal Hamikdash, and they built the Mikdash. It seems from the language that the Rambam changes that there's something different over it. Until now, in Shilei, it was called a Mishkan Shilei. Now it's called a Mikdash. A Noiv and Gibeon is a Mikdash. So what differentiated the Mishkan from the Mikdash? L'chura, it was probably had a ceiling on it. Because until now, even in Mishkan Shilei, it had stones on the walls. But the Rambam makes clear that they took the urias of the Mishkan, the skins of the Mishkan, they put on the top. Like the Mishkan didn't have an actual ceiling. It seems over here was the actual building. When they Givain from Givain Bo, the Beis, Ha'ilamim, they came to the everlasting spot in Yerushalayim. We may know, given how long was the time period that the Mishkan stood in the two cities. The Mikdash stood in the two cities of Noiv and Givain. Sheva, Chamish Mishana, 57 years. I was recently in Eretz Yisrael, and I was there twice on this spot, but now last time I went more clear to the place of Shilei. They have one of the Yishuvim in Eretz Yisrael settlements. It's called the Shilei, and it's built very close to that spot where the Mishkan was. Now we don't know exactly.
Do they know where it was?
So the way I understand, we don't know exactly where it was. However, those that live there in Shilei, the settlement, so they have a whole they have a
Masorah. They probably have a Masorah about where.
No, it's a new settlement. It was maybe made in the late 70s.
Oh,
so they don't have a Masorah, but first of all, they created a whole. There's like a whole business going on with tourist attraction where people come and they tell you the history, and you get to tour around and do different things. So they have a spot where they claim that that's the spot. They feel that that's the spot, and one of the mountains there, it's a very stony area. It's full of stones. And there's a spot there which they say it's a flat area on top of one of the mountains. And they say that the measurements of this area fit the measurements of the Mishkan. So possibly that's the spot.
Could be. How far is it from Yerushalayim?
They built some whole structure there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Not that far. I mean, maybe it's a 40-minute drive. I don't remember the exact.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was that far. but there's a lot happening there where they tell you the history and everything of the Mishkan. And I think it's definitely somewhere in that area, but we don't know exactly.
Archaeologists haven't really.
They did find some archaeology of different areas over there, but different things, but nothing. I don't think. I never studied it, but things that they were saying didn't seem to me things that were very conclusive. Not about the Mishkan. They found some other stuff there. The area was inhabited by. There was a lot of. Jordan used to have control over that area. And they found some things of history of Yidden in that area, but there's been a lot of history of Goyim in that area also, going back. What's very interesting, and near the Koisel is the Koisel is the tunnel, where they brought the water into Yerushalayim.
Underneath the path. It would
yeah,
like a sewer underneath it.
But the Psukim talk about this mokim that they built. Okay. Halacha Gimel. Kima shenivna Hamikdash b'Yerushalayim nesu kol hamekoymes kulam livnes bahem Beis laHashem. Until that time, you're allowed to bring a bama, karbanis and a bama. You could have your own private mizbeach near your home. You want to make a mizbeach and bring a karban to Hashem? Certain karbanis you're allowed to bring there. The Darim and the Davis.
Really?
Yeah, it's called a bama.
Okay.
But once the Mikdash moved to Yerushalayim, everywhere else it became also. This is the permanent spot, and this is the only spot you can bring a carbon. Ve'ein sham bayis v'doire hadoires ela b'Yerushalayim belvad. Here, there's no house for all generations besides Yerushalayim and Har Hamariah in Yerushalayim. Shema Yemer David Zehu Beis Hashem Elikim. This is the house of Hashem. V'zeh Mizbeach. So this is the Mizbeach to bring karbanis for Klal Yisrael. V'aymer, it says in another pasuk at the Tehillim, Zois Menuchasi. This is my resting spot. Ad forever. And there are many psukim that this is the spot Hashem chose L'olam Vad as the place, and nowhere else. Everywhere else was temporary until that spot.
So perhaps the Russian thing, when the mission wasn't Shiloh, it was a holy place. Now that it's not there, that land where it was, it's not.
Right, it's not holy.
Because I was there once. Kamar sat down in the place where they claimed the mission was. How did they know? They say, because they saw broken pottery all around, and when people would come out giving carbon or whatever they had, whatever they used as a keli, they broke because they couldn't use it again for anything else.
Right, the Beis. Yeah, it's not conclusive things, but there's things that it's like someone will visit Har Sinai today. There's no Kedusha to Har Sinai. It's a nice historical place. But it says, Heima Yalu Bahar. And after the sound of the shofar, Heima Yalu Bahar, you can go on the Har. No more Kedusha.
They actually have it in Shiloh. They have it's a yishuv there, and they have the shul looks like a mishkan, including the roof going over like this. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't go inside. I saw the outside.
What?
So there's a difference in the way the Kedusha, Har Sinai was mamash vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. But the Kedusha was there only b'shas Maisa. Because the Kedusha came over, was brought Mamayla Lamato, did not affect the Gashmias of the world. The Mokim during the Midbar, the Mizbeach moved around. The Chatchila was not a Mokim Kavua. When there's no Mokim Kavua, there was no Kedusha to the Mokim. The Kedushas HaBeis Hamikdash made that the actual Mokim is a Mokim Kedusha. Even now that the Beis Hamikdash is Charav, destroyed, that place is a holy Mokim, right? You're not allowed to go into we can't go into Beis, and we're not allowed to go into the Mokim Hamikdash. It's still B'Kedushasei. It always stays as Kedusha.
By the way, Rabbi Maraza taught us from a Aimer that the some tzaddikim, the Beit Hamikdash was never destroyed because it's still around the Yeshiva Shom Mala.
That's the way he explained it?
Yeah.
It says from Shimon Bar Yochai, it's brought in Svarim, that the Beis Hamikdash was never destroyed. What does that mean? He was on a Madrega that he saw the Beis Hamikdash always. He had the Beis Hamikdash, the Ruchnius and the Kedusha.
Yeah.
He didn't need the physical Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah.
Because his eyes always saw the Ruchnius and the Kedusha that the Mikdash brought.
Wow.
Meaning, really, it's Simsum Eine Kipshutei. It just, we don't see, but the Beis Hamikdash, the Kedusha is always there. We don't see the Kedusha. The Tzaddik could see the Kedusha. Tzaddik feels the Kedusha still. Kedusha leizazim imkoima. Kedusha never leaves its place. There's a helem, there's a concealment. It's covered. We don't see it, but the Kedusha doesn't leave its place. It says it was buried. It was buried. It says when the first Beis Hamikdash was built, they buried the Oyel Moed. That's what it says in the Gemara in Saita. Where? I think that they feel it's there. They're digging there. I think, I don't know.
Huh?
I think that they hope they're going to find something there.
You think of these authority?
Halacha Dalet. Being in Shabbat Shloima, Karma Furish b'Malachim. In Sefer Malachim, already describes the building that Shlomo HaMelech built. V'chein binyan ha'asel libanis. The building that will be built l'asel even though Yecheskel writes about Perek Mem in Sefer Yecheskel talks about how the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi is going to look. It's not clear and explicit the details. V'anshe Bayisheni, those that built the second Beis Hamikdash, in the days of Ezra, when Ezra led up the Yidden from the Goyla, and they came up the Bia Shnia, they came up the second time. So what was their basis of how they built it? They built it based on things that Shlomo HaMelech built it. It was in the Sefer Malachim. And similar to things that were the explicit parts that were mentioned in Sefer Yecheskel. The Ram Halacha Hey starts to go, what are the Iker parts of the building of the Beis Hamikdash? Meaning, what things are ma'akiv that without it, it's not a Beis Hamikdash. Oisim be kodesh. You have to make a spot which is called kodesh. Or kodesh hakadoshim, an area which is a holy of holies. And in the third place, v'yih l'fnei hakodesh makom echad v'hu hanikra ulam. Before the kodesh is an area called ulam, or shlashtam nikrayin heichel. All three of them together are called heichel. V'oisim mechitza acheres saviv laheichel. V'choikim imenu ke'ein kalei hachotzer shehoyu b'midbar. They made another area surrounded by a wall around the Heichel, not right adjacent to it, further away, similar to the way the Mishkan was surrounded by a chotzer. There was a courtyard around. It had curtains around, kaloyim, surrounded the Mishkan. Similar Beis Hamikdash also had such a thing, but it wasn't made out of curtains, it was made out of walls. V'chol hamukaf v'mechitza zu shehu ke'ein chatzara el moed, hu nikra azara, the hakoil nikra mikdash. That is called an azara. And altogether, all of these areas, which is 4 areas, Kodesh, Kodesh HaKadoshim, Ulam, and the Azara, it's all called the Mikdash. And those are the Iker parts of the Beis HaMikdash. These 4 sections, or 2 sections. Heichol, which is 3, and Azara, which is 1. Ve'oisim Mikdash, Mikdash Kelim. Besides for the Iker, the Beis, now you have to know what do you have in the house. What are the Kelim you have? What furniture you have in this house? So Rambam explains what is the Iker Kelim that are in the Mikdash. The things in the Psukim. Mizbeach L'oila, L'shar Karbanis. Mizbeach for the Karbanis. It's called in the Torah many times Mizbeach Oila. Why is it called Mizbeach Oila? They brought a lot of Karbanis on the Mizbeach. Not just the Oila, they brought Shlamim, Taida, Chatos. Because the Oila was brought every day. Carbon Tamid Shal Shacher, Carbon Tamid Ben Abayim were Karbanis of Oila. Oila means that Lashon Oila means Aliyah, was completely Oila on the Mizbeach, completely burnt. No part of it was eaten by the Koyanim or by the Bailim, the owners. It was completely burnt on the Mizbeach. Kolol Tiyah. So it's called the Oila. So the Torah calls it very often, the Torah calls it Mizbeach Oila. Sometimes the Torah calls it. Because that was the Iker every day, was brought morning and night. The Tamidim that were Carbon Tamid were the Karbanis Oila. But obviously all Karbanis were brought in it. That's he said the Shara Karbanis. The Kavesh, the ramp, She'oilim Ben Mizbeach. There was a ramp. They would not have steps. They had a ramp. Like the Pasuk says, "V'lo Sala al Mailas Mizbechi," should not go up on steps to my Mizbeach. Where is the ramp? On which side of the Mizbeach is it situated? Lifnei ha'ulam mashuch l'darim. Actually, the word Umakoyme is not, I'm sorry, it's not going, I think, on the Kevesh. It's going on the whole Mizbeach. Where was the Mizbeach situated? Umakoyme, its Makim was the Lifnei ha'ulam before the Ulam, meaning it's in the Chatzar, which is called Azara. The Nazara, in the courtyard, quote unquote, before the Ulam. Okay, so you have Kodesh HaKadashim, Kodesh, the Ulam, and in front of the Ulam there was the Azara all around, and the Mizbeach was in the Ulam, was in the Azara, in front of the Ulam, a little bit moved towards the southern side. Mashuch Darim, a little bit moved to the Darim side, to the southern side. Ulam was an area, like a area in between the Azara, and it was the entry. Ulam was the entry into the Kodesh. Before you enter the Kodesh, it was like a hole. You entered into go into the Kodesh where the Kalim were. The Azara was split into different sections. The Azara had Ezos Yisrael, Ezos Koyanim, and Ezos Nashim. The word Ezos Nashim comes from. That's the word. So there were different sections in the Azara itself.
So the Ulam was more outside, right?
No, the Ulam was more inside. After the Azara, there were steps, and they walked up into the Ulam. And the Ulam led into the Kodesh. The Yidden were not allowed to go in there.
Only the Kohen.
Only the Koyanim.
Was that part of the Oid?
Well, Now it's the Beis Hamikdash. It's no longer the Mishkan, but
Okay.
you didn't have the Ulam there. No, no, there was no. It's a good point. There was no Ulam there.
So the Kohanim only went in there on the one day of Yom Kippur, right?
Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol.
Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
Kodesh HaGadashim.
Only in Yom Kippur.
Okay.
On Yom Kippur says that in the Sefer Yetzirah, it's a work of Kabbalah written by Avram Avinu. The Sefer Yetzirah brings out that is Olam Shana Nefesh. The word Ashan, smoke, stands for Olam Shana Nefesh. Olam means the world, means place, space. Shana Shin means year, means time. Nun is Nefesh, means soul. The world is comprised of three things: time and place, and the soul. Soul behind this, the souls, they are living beings. It says when the Kohen Gadol went inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim in Kippur, he had all three simultaneously. The holiest person in the world was the Kohen Gadol. So he was the holiest nefesh. What's the holiest place in the world? Kodesh HaKadoshim. Holy of Holies, where the Aron was. The Haben HaShasiyah. The stone that the world was created from. The third, that's the Mokim, the Olam. Shana, Ashran, Olam, Shana Nefesh. Shana, the time. What time of the year was it when the Kohen Gadol went in? Achas Bashana. Shabbos Shabbosin, the holiest day of the year. So you had all those three converging at the same moment of it. You had all three, the holiest Nefesh, the holiest Mokim, and the holiest time in the Shana of the year, all converging at that moment together.
I have a question for
The
you.
Kohen Gadol can't go in there. No one's allowed to go in there unless they went in there to fix something. And there was a special way how they went in to fix. They weren't allowed just to walk in there. They had to go in a way where they're not going to look around and just to have hana from looking at the Aron and the Kruvim. They went down in boxes and they fixed whatever they need to fix, and they went out.
Going back to the Azara, well, was that before the Kodesh Kadashim, or is that in the same vicinity as the Kodesh Kadashim?
So it's it would be good if I would have brought a diagram, but the Azara was the courtyard.
Okay.
On the front, all the way to the outside. So you had all the way inside was the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
Okay.
Then you come out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you have a section called Kodesh. It's holy. There's the menorah, the Mizbeach HaPnimi from the Ketores.
Yeah.
You had the Shulchan. That's all in the Kodesh. Then you walked out through a Ulam, and you went down the steps, and then you went down into the Azar. The Azar was the outer area. In the outer area was the Mizbeach Chitzon, where they brought the Karbanis, and that was the Mizbeach was situated in the Chatzar, in the Azar, in the courtyard, in front of the Ulam, in front of the hall, and in front of that entry to go in towards the Kodesh.
Rabbi, if I understand correctly, the Jews did not actually offer up the Korban. It was the Kohanim
right
offered it up. So what they would do is they would hand their offering to the Kohen, and the Kohen would put it on the Mizbech, and they would shecht it.
Right? A Yid could shecht it. A Yid's allowed to shecht it, but after that, it's no longer their job. They're putting the blood on the Mizbeach and bringing it on the Mizbeach was all Kohanim, was also for a Yid to do that.
Okay. Is a Yid allowed? I think. Did you mention that a regular Jew, a Yisrael or a Levi, is not allowed a Zara?
No, he could shecht it.
They're allowed on the Zara.
Yeah,
but they're not allowed to put stuff on the staff.
No. Okay. Because that's avoida.
Okay.
You're not allowed to do avoida. You're allowed to be in a Zara, but you're not allowed to do avoida.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, further in Halacha Vav, we're holding Halacha Vav in the middle. what other kalim were there in the mikdash? There was a kier, the kanoi. There was the kier where the faucets, the water basin, the kanim, its base, the kaddish min al koinim idem aglim avodah, where the koinim would wash their hands, make their hands and feet holy before they went to do the avodah on the mizbeach or in the Beis Hamikdash. Where was that situated? Bein ha'ulam v'la mizbeach. It was closer to the ulam, to the entry to the kodesh. Mashuch l'darim shusmel next to the mikdash. Also was moved to the left side. It was the left when you entering the mikdash was on the left side of the azara, the courtyard. Now, there were other things that they made. Mizbeach laktoides, umenorah v'shulchan. There were three other kalim that were shlashtem b'toich hakodesh l'fnei kodesh hadash. The three of them were inside the kodesh before the kodesh hadash, and these three kalim of mizbeach for ktoides, the menorah, and the shulchan. Now, by the way, interesting to note that the Rambam just when he comes to Sivav, he sort of goes backwards. In Sifhei, he explained to Kodesh HaKadashim, Kodesh, and then he said there's a place called Azara. So he sort of like went from the Holy of Holies down in the building. In Sivav, he discusses which kalim you make. He starts off from when as if you're standing in the Azara in the courtyard. Starts talking about what kalim are there. Mizbeach, the Kiyar, and then you're going further in to the Kodesh. He says there were three kalim there. The way you enter, because that's the way you enter in, what you're going to see first when you're entering it. Maybe because he left off with Hazara, he finished off with Hazara and Hey, so he continued where he left off with Hazara, and talk about what was in the Hazara. Now, where was the Menorah? Now, you're going into the Kodesh, where was the Menorah? Where was the Shulchan? Where was the Mizbeach? HaMenorah b'darim ismalanich. It was in the south, on the left of the one that entered. Because remember, the entry to the Beis Hamikdash was on the east side. It was a Mizrach. Entry to the Mikdash. Entry to the Mikdash was on the east. Where was the Kodesh HaKadashim? The west. West, right? Beis Hamaravi was in the west. We daven to the east because we are in Chutzlards. So we daven towards Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the Middle East. It's in the east. So we daven to the east. In Eretz Yisrael, they daven towards the Makam Yushalayim. In Yushalayim to the place of the Mikdash. You daven to the Mikdash, you daven towards the Kodesh HaKadashim, which is in the west. We don't always daven to the east. We don't always daven to the east. Depends where you are situated in relationship to Eretz Yisrael, Yishalayim, and the Mikdash. So,
wait a minute, but Michoel, but the Har Habayit had to be situated so that the Kohen Gadol could see straight through to where they had taken
right.
the Azazel, I think. So why? How could it be in the west unless it's a straight through? It sounds like it would be more likely to the east.
It's in the west. It wasn't. You didn't see the ending. You saw that. You had to see the top of the entry. You had to be able to see the top of the entry to the hallway. The big hallway, the big ulam of the entry. You had to see the top of it from that area that they were, where they shechted where they brought the paraduma, or
right.
Huh? Was it the door there?
It had to be open. It was open right straight through.
It's 30 feet high, so for sure this.
It was a very high gate.
Very, very high.
Well,
A door that three floor high.
Now, so the Naira was on the left when you entered. The Shulchan, you mean that the Shulchan, which had the Lechem Apanim, all of Lechem Apanim was on the right side. Ushneim b'tzad kodesh hakadoshim mechutz. Now, the kodesh, when you entered into the kodesh, there was the half closer to the entry and the half closer to kodesh hakadoshim, where the iron was. Where were these kalim situated? The Rambam says they were situated in the back half, closer to the kodesh hakadoshim. Just the menorah was on the left when you came in, and the shulchan was on the right. With Mizbeach HaKetoros, and the Mizbeach which he brought the Ketoros was on Mashuch Mibein Shneim Lachutz. It was in between both of them, but towards the outside, not close to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, more towards your entry, where you entered. So you're going to hit first. When you enter into the Kodesh, you're going to have some empty space in the beginning, and then you're going to hit the Mizbeach HaKetoros. And then on the left is the menorah, and the right is the shulchan. Now, the Rambam, now that he finished mentioning the kalim, he actually now sort of like a new halacha, a new inyan. He says, going back to, now I told you all about the main kalim that were in the Mizbeach. Torah itself mentions these kalim. I'm going to go back to talk to you about the Azara that I talked to you originally about. Why he waited till now? Maybe because it's a detail, so not the ikr in the Beis. You have to make sections, measurements within the Azara. Ad kan the Yisrael. Up until this point, a Yisrael is allowed to go. Normally, a Yid is only allowed to be in Eretz Yisrael. In the Azar itself, there were divisions how far you're allowed to go. And the Yid knew you can't, unless they had to do smicha on their carbon. They brought a carbon, they had to be samach yadav alav, you put your carbon, say vidui, confess your sin on the carbon. Then you're allowed to go further outside of Eretz Yisrael. How did they make it clear what the differentiation was, that people should know where they're not allowed to go?
Weren't there signs?
Was there a line? Was there a sign? What was it?
There were signs. There was a sign.
And there was Ezra's Kohanim was one amma higher. In the Azara, it was one amma higher. They didn't know up to this point, this step, we can go up until.
Cool question. Was anybody warned that they're not supposed to go any further?
Yeah, they can't go further. The Levim's job was to make sure everyone kept, one of their jobs to make sure everyone kept to their place.
Good.
And now, furthermore, Ad kan l'koyanim. Up until here is where the koyanim are. Obaynim babatim l'shatzarich Hamikdash. In the Azara, they would build rooms. Batim they call it houses, but it's rooms. For other needs of the Mikdash, they need closets and rooms. Kol Beis mehem nikar lishka. Each one of these rooms is called a lishka office, and they stored various things or did various functions in those rooms. In the Azara, each corner of the Azara, the four corners of the Azara had rooms to it, and the rooms served various purposes. It was in the Azara.
Were any of those rooms a changing room for the Kohanim?
Yeah.
Because I remember I learned from Rabbi Barazov in Sefer Ayikra, he said the Kohanim would shovel the soot from the burnt carbon. So before they did that, they changed their clothing.
Yeah.
They wore less nice clothing. They took the shovel. They brought it outside. And they
had to wear other clothing because they got dirty.
Yeah.
And the Chazal say that
what?
Chazal say that you don't. Rashi brings this Chazal that you don't serve your master the same clothing that you cooked the soup in, right?
Yeah.
took the food in. To change, to have a nicer food, clothing, you don't wear the apron while you're serving. You wear the tuxedo, whatever they wear, the waiters. You
Yeah.
have to wear a different type of begadim.
And which parsha was I mentioning?
The beginning of Vayikra.
You sing it every day. Rabbi's brother Michoel with his
Yeah. What was the parsha of?
Tzav, I think. Tzav. I think it's in Tzav.
Okay. All right.
Now, Chazal tell us that Hareitza sheyachkim yadrim. If you want to be smart, when you daven Shemona Esrei, you should tilt your head to the direction of the south. Hareitza sheyachkim yadrim. Why? In the south was where the menorah was. So the menorah represented the oyer of the menorah represented chachma, light, wisdom. But if you want to be rich, Hareitza sheyashir yatzpin. And you should tilt your head to the north, because the north is where the shulchan was, the table, where the lechem upon him, which that represented food, represented parnasa, represented having food and having what you need. So Hareitza sheyashir, go to the. That's how you remember where everything is. Hareitza sheyashir. Hareitza sheyachkim yadrin. Hareitza sheyashir yatzpin.
Remind me again of what I would tilt my head to the south during davening.
And that if you want chachma.
Chachma, okay. Thank you.
What happens if you want both?
I'm not sure.
Ah.
You do what Levi Yitzchak did. You just walk around. Keep on walking around.
You really need some work with.
Says that the Ramah writes in the halachas of Bismillah that you're not supposed to give to be sandik you're not supposed to give the same person twice sandik. What's the reason? Says because that's ketairis. It says when the kohanim who got a chance to bring the ketairis on the mizbeach, they didn't give the same kohen twice. They made a goyrol and they only said whoever did not yet ever had a chance to bring ketairis on the inside mizbeach, we'll do a goyrol between those kohanim, a payis, and we'll choose which kohen to. If the kohen did it already, he doesn't get a chance to be part of that group to do the pious. What's the reason? Because bringing ketairis is a segula for richness. So we want to give someone else a chance to do it. Same thing, being a sandik by a bris is also a segula for ashiris. So I'm right, therefore, you should give it to someone else. So you don't give it, if you have two boys in a family, the second child, don't give it to the same one. It also says in Rabbi Yehuda Achos, it says that there's a certain sakana, something not only that is better to, but it's a certain sakana that you shouldn't give to the same person. Now, the Vilna Goyen writes in the Shulchan Aruch, he says, you ever saw anyone get rich from being a sandik? I never saw anyone. We never saw anyone be getting rich because of this mitzvah. It's a kasha. So Chassam Sofer said that sometimes it doesn't come down in that method. It could come down that you could have health, you'd be a healthy person. It could come and manifest itself in different ways, that shivas. It doesn't always come down and reveal that shivas. That's how he answered that. One of the Rebbes, by the Meraza family, that I don't think it was his grandfather, but it was the Rebbes, and one of the Rebbes, I think it was the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab was a sandik by one of the children, because his Zayda gave the Rebbe Rashab to be sandik by one. And then he gave the Fidike by the other one. It was still in the lifetime of the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab asked him why he didn't give him a second time. It says in the Ramah, you're not supposed to give a second time. So he didn't give the Rebbe. He gave the Rebbe's son the Fidik Rebbe for the second son. But the Rebbe Rashab told him that's only when you're doing it that the person needs it. The person you're giving it to, that it's a schus for him. When you're doing it for the child, for the schus for the child, then you're allowed to give it to.
I heard they're talking like a father. You don't give a father the same, but for a Rebbe, you could give more than once.
Yes.
Right. The Paiskim also say that
But
maybe for because the Kohen Gadol, I think the Noid B'Yehud over there says that discusses that idea because maybe giving a Marad Asa a Rav twice because I think the Kohen Gadol can always do Keteris whenever he wanted. So Al Derech Zeh, this probably was based on this idea that what the Rebbe Rashab said.
Me too.
We have a minyan.
Me too. One.
And
You put
they
the
were-
telephone before?
Yeah, but the game there, that you can find the standard win. So it's both. Like I hope
This one?
with Congress why then to for the other future. So that hope to join and say, shot us by the shot and the other lead, the same version. Yeah, somebody else get that. Then no, both have the same one should have like, it's not better than you. Yeah, come.
All right, they're gonna feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay, Rabbi Kirchenberg can bring himself 2 steins.
Good. It's coming.
So,
It's 7 minutes.
yeah,
It's worth that far away.
it's also the garbage also.
I could do it now. Do it now.
The story I heard, right, you know, that doesn't. I wanted to figure out, right, it's more, either, you need to say garbage. So, they good. But, I never agree that, that it sounds.
I just wanted to put out a
See, one that's on the. Yeah, got it, but one day you get the call, yeah, to read it with the bottles. Box, on the outside. Yes,
yeah.
what's, so. Between your Jerusha as the Yeshivas, he said, so that was something. Now I have somebody came with the internet. So there is some truth to it. He didn't know where when he should have come, he didn't know what the money was talking about, and so it became like an left field.
Yeshakayach everyone for joining. Rabbi David, Rabbi Davis,
Have a good night, David.
Yashkoa.
and Rabbi Silverman.
Sure,
Rabbi Silverman, thank you everyone for joining. Yeshakayach.
thank you.
See you next week. Amen. Hashem.
Hashem.